There we go. Great. So it should be recording now, I hope. Yes. All right. So welcome, everybody. I'm Raina Franco, and we're here to talk about how to energize and detoxify naturally. I hope everybody's doing well. If you don't know who I am, I'm the registered dietitian nutritionist for Ogilvy, and my services are available to everybody as long as you are benefits eligible. And feel free to contact me at any time by email. Is usually the best way to contact me if you have any questions. Since we're not a really big group, we're only at this point 7, including me. Feel free to. The best thing, if I'm not going to be able to check the chat box. It's a little bit more challenging for me, but if you want to say something, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. There will be time at the end, I hope, to answer any questions. But if something comes up that you really, really need to ask, please go ahead. I want to make this as interactive as possible, and answer whatever you have about energizing and detoxifying. So the first question that a lot of people have is, what is a toxin? So here we see a whole list of toxins. A toxin basically is anything that is dangerous to your body. So we know, lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, industrial chemicals, petrochemicals, pollutants. So on this list here, is there a toxin that is not on this list that you could think of?
Probably sugar.
Sugar? Yep, that's so true. Food, things you put into your body, foods that you ingest, some of those are toxins. Even makeup, things you put on your body, moisturizers,
nail polish.
Yeah, so these are all toxins. What was that?
Alcohol.
Alcohol, yes, certainly. Alcohol, smoking, drugs, they're all toxins. So as we just mentioned, is that these are things that you will ingest, either by eating it or drinking it, breathing it in, or absorbing it through your skin. And a lot of this is just, we have toxins that are naturally made as part of metabolism. You might have heard of lactic acid, you might have heard of urea, our waste products. Now, anything that's excess, it's stored in our fat cells, in soft tissue, and in bone. So we want to make sure we don't have that excess toxins. We want to make sure that those toxins get out of our body. And that's where this detoxification comes in. So our body does this naturally. Our body naturally detoxes itself all the time, 24 hours a day. It's working on getting rid of those toxins. And those toxins are released from our body when we urinate, when we have bowel movements, when we sweat, when we perspire. Now, everybody's ability to detox is going to vary a lot on what you're eating, your environment, your lifestyle, how healthy you are, and also on your genes. So why are we even bothering talking about detoxification when our bodies do it naturally? Well, there are about 85,000 different chemicals that are currently in use. And apparently 2,000 new chemicals are created every year that's put into our food and into consumer products. And many of these are not tested for adverse health effects. And you can imagine that, how can you test a new chemical? What's going to happen to your body after consuming it today, 20 years from now? So we don't have those long-term studies on many of these chemicals. About 94% of the chemicals have not been tested. And over time, these toxins can lead to endocrine disruption, heart disease, neurological and developmental problems, metabolic diseases, diabetes, cancer, and so on. So we really have to help our body detox. Now, just getting back into how our body does it, there are several organs involved. So we have the liver, the kidneys, the GI system, our skin, and our lungs. So with the skin, that's when we perspire and sweat. We get rid of toxins that way. From our lungs, when we exhale, so when we breathe out, we get rid of some toxins. But then we have our liver, and what that does is it filters out and transforms these toxins in the blood into harmless substances, and those are then excreted either the urine or stool. And our kidneys too, they provide a route for toxic excretion, and that goes out by urine. And then we have our intestines, our GI system. So that's really important for regular bowel movements to make sure that these toxins excrete in our body, just get out of our body properly. So you want to make sure you have your regular bowel movements. Now this slide here is a bit complicated, just the information, but what I'm trying to get across on this slide is free radicals. How many people have heard of free radicals? You can say yes, raise your hand.
I have.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about free radicals. I just think I love the word. But anyway, so free radicals are toxins that come into our body, and they're created within our body, and quite often we can get rid of them. And we often will get rid of them by eating foods that are antioxidants. So antioxidants are what rids our body of free radicals. Now, I love this picture here. So this really explains how our body detoxes and what's needed to do it. So on the bottom, it just has a list of some of the toxins that might get into our body or our body might create. So the metabolic end products are things our body is creating. Microorganisms come in externally, contaminants, pollutants, insecticides, pesticides, food additives, things that we ingest, drugs, alcohol. So toxins are fat soluble. Then there's a two-step process. So step one is we're starting working towards detoxifying. Step one, we need certain nutrients. And those are B vitamins, folic acid, glutathione, antioxidants, carotenoids, vitamin E, and vitamin C. And those are both antioxidants too. So we need those nutrients to start the first step of detoxification. And then there's a second step, and that requires certain amino acids, glutamine, glycine, taurine, cysteine, and then it needs sulfurated phytochemicals, and we find that in garlic and cruciferous vegetables. So we need all those nutrients in order to detox our body. And once we get through step one and then step two, then our body creates these waste products, which are now water soluble, and then they go through the body to get eliminated. So there are two different pathways those might go through. It might go to the gallbladder, then to bile, and then you'll have a bowel movement. Or it might go through the kidneys, and you'll urinate those toxins out. So when I first looked at this picture, I found it a little bit confusing. It took me a little while to really understand it. But the more I look at it, the more excited I get by understanding the important role food has in detoxifying our body and ensuring that these toxification pathways are working properly. So one of the first steps that we need to do is just avoid those toxins. So if we go back here and we see the toxin list and the toxins we were talking about before, we can avoid toxins. That helps our body, number one, detoxify. It has less to get rid of. So let's talk about that first. So tips for avoiding toxins. So there's certain things that we want to avoid consuming. If all we did was eat whole foods, stuff from the ground without any additives, just cooking things ourselves, that's a very simple way of doing it. But we quite often will buy things that are packaged. So you want to read the ingredient list, and you want to look for things that don't have artificial colorings, artificial flavorings, artificial sweeteners, artificial anything. You want to stay away from anything that's in plastics or canned goods, because the plastics in canned goods might contain BHT and BHA, which get leached into the food and get into our body. Highly processed food. So if you look at that ingredient list again, and you see a list of 20 different items, well, that's certainly highly processed. Minimally processed foods are usually okay. Something like oatmeal is minimally processed. That has maybe one ingredient, maybe two. So for oatmeal, number one, it should just be oats. There might be some sodium in it to preserve it, some salt, but that doesn't make it a highly processed food. Same thing, some breads are minimally processed while others are highly processed. If you see there's 3 or 4 ingredients in a food, that's more or less processed than something that has, like I said, 20 ingredients. So look at that ingredient list. That is key. And here's a list of some ingredients you really want to avoid. Partially hydrogenated oils are really bad. Does anybody know what type of fat partially hydrogenated oils turns into?
The trans fat.
Correct. Excellent. So trans fats are really bad. Can anybody tell me why they're so bad?
They clog the arteries.
Yes, they do. So what they do is we have our high density lipoproteins and our low density lipoproteins. So high density lipoproteins are the good fats. LDLs, the low density lipoproteins, are the bad ones. So what trans fats does, it decreases our good fat, or HDLs, and increases our LDLs. So it leads to heart disease. You want to stay away from that. High fructose corn syrup, nasty. Artificial sweeteners, preservatives, and here you see some more names. Monosodium glutamate, that's also a sodium. So these just are some of the ingredients that you want to stay away from. So again, if you're reading that ingredient list and you don't recognize something in it, it's probably not good for you. Another thing we want to look at is conventional meat and dairy products. So you want to stay away from conventional meat and dairy because it contains antibiotics. A lot of them have hormone disrupting chemicals in them. The animal feed, what the animals are actually eating, is sprayed with chemicals. Is what so happens when you're consuming these animal products, you're getting those chemicals and antibiotics that they are given. So we'll talk about what is a better option. And then also barbecuing. Barbecuing, it creates a high heat, and that creates more chemicals in the meat. So it creates what's called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and those are toxins. So we want to stay away from that. So again, people love barbecue, but if you're going to barbecue, don't char the food. Don't overcook it, don't burn it. And that actually goes with anything. You don't want to eat any burnt food because that does create toxic chemicals. So if you are going to consume meat or dairy, avoid anything that has recombinant bovine growth hormone. What you usually will see on the label, they'll say no RBGH or no RBST. Another thing is stick with locally grown, grass-fed, free-range meats and dairy products, because you'll then reduce your exposure to those pesticides and hormones and fertilizers. So if you have a local farm or you go to the farmer's market, that's a great way to purchase your meat and dairy products. Another interesting thing about the locally grown, the meat that is, and the dairy that's grass-fed, is the fat content in these cows is different than the fat content in those mass-produced meat cows. It's leaner. It's actually better for you. So another really good reason for choosing grass-fed, sustainably processed meats and dairy. Any questions about any of this so far?
Nope.
Great. All right. Another one is fish. So fish can be healthy. but you have to make sure you avoid high mercury fish. So ones that are high in mercury are shark and swordfish. And you can read the list up here. There is a great website, and I have it listed here. It's nrdc.org, and they have this, I printed out this little wallet card, and it tells you by red, yellow, and green the list of the fish and their mercury content. So you want to stick to the green fish, the ones that are lower in mercury, and the ones in red you want to avoid, like swordfish and shark. So those, that's really important. If anybody is thinking about getting pregnant or is pregnant or nursing, you definitely want to avoid those high mercury fish because it does get into your bloodstream, and it does affect, either if you have a baby, if you're pregnant, you have a fetus, or if you're breastfeeding, it can get into your milk supply. Something else that's pretty interesting is aquatic biotoxins. So that you can find in mussels, scallops, and oysters. So again, if you're going to be buying these types of fish, go to your fish market, or at this point, we're not, you might be going to a fish market. Talk to the fishmonger there about where the fish is coming from, and find something that is a safer fish that doesn't have the toxins in it.
Hi, Raina. Is sardines okay?
Yeah, sardines are okay. A lot of the smaller fish are good. And the reason for that is the larger fish, going back to the shark and the swordfish, which are really big, they eat so many more fish that that increases the toxin levels. Whereas the smaller fish are usually lower in toxins. So sardines they should be okay. I'd have to really check I'd have to go back and check that for sure, but I think they're okay.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So other things we should look into, the air inside our homes. So right now, I live in New York City, and I have to say the air, it's gotten so much better. But in the past, I would have my windows open and all this soot would come in and dust, and it's really pretty nasty. So having an air filter in your home will help reduce those pollutants that you breathe in. If you do have an air filter, it's really important to change the actual filter in the device. So that's something that you could consider getting. Another one is water. Again, depends on where you're living. Some water is actually very high in pollutants and toxins, so you should ensure you filter that water. Some places even have to filter the water that you're bathing in because your body is still absorbing that water. So depending upon where you live, the water that you're using, consider filtering it. Your body products. Some of them, one thing is take a look at the ingredients of your makeup, of your body products, your soap. If it's something that you never heard of before or sounds odd, you probably should find something that's more natural. So the more natural that body product is, if it's ingredients that you can actually eat, that is probably a very safe product to put on your body. And the same thing with household cleaners. Now, right now, we're probably using a lot more cleaners than we had in the past, and probably more toxic cleaners because we're concerned about the virus. But for other things, if we're not spraying something because we're concerned about the virus, if you're cleaning the windows or dusting, you can use natural products. There are so many websites out there that explain how to either make body products, making moisturizers and things for your face and your body, and also natural cleaners. So take a look at that. And that's definitely going to help you out, with different types of products that is safer than what we're buying over the counter. Any suggestions? Does anybody make their own cleaner or body products?
I don't make any product, but I use Dr. Bronner's soap for my everyday cleansing in the shower.
That's great.
Coconut oil for moisturizing for the most part.
Excellent. No, that's really good. All right. Yeah, there's a lot out there. All right, so now we're going to talk about the food part. So we talked about how to get rid of toxins, and now we're going to talk about those foods to help detox our body. And we hear a lot about fruit cleanses. Well, they are kind of interesting. You consume lots of fruits and vegetables, and those fruits and vegetables have antioxidants in them. There's a lot of water in it, which is usually good, but there's also a lot of sugar in them too. Although it has lots of nutrients in it, it doesn't have a full panel of all the nutrients you need, so it could lead to malnutrition. They're a quick fix, but if you do it once and then you go back to your general eating behaviors, you're not helping your body at all. So as I mentioned, there are risks involved in these detox diets. So some of them actually have you taking supplements or laxatives or diuretics. It can actually backfire and be very negative. It also costs a lot of money to get these detox products. And sometimes some of those products will interact with medications that you are currently taking. So I don't recommend consuming anything that's called a detox pill or a supplement, because it just could be very negative. And again, as I was saying before, if you do it once or if you do it for a week, it'll help maybe that week, but then when you're off of it, you're back to that same old process and back on, not taking care of your body properly. You want to always be taking care of your body. So we're going to talk about the very first thing that we should be putting into our body to detoxify it. And the most important one is glutathione. And this is your master antioxidant and detoxifier. Not only does it help detoxify your body, but it also helps with energy production. And so that's why I call this presentation Energize and Detoxify. Because if we could get enough of this glutathione into our body, not only will it help us, in this case, it helps with aging, helps with antioxidants, it will also give us more energy. So the foods that contain glutathione include asparagus, avocado, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, spinach, broccoli, garlic, chives, tomatoes, cucumber, and almonds and walnuts. Now what happens is when you cook these foods, it reduces the glutathione content by 30 to 60%. So what we need to do is we have to consume foods that are also precursors to glutathione. So what that means is these precursors create or help create glutathione in our body. And we're going to go through what those foods are. So the very first one is cruciferous vegetables. And they're packed with glucosinolates. So that's a precursor to glutathione. So make sure every single day you consume a cruciferous vegetable. And you see here a list of vegetables that we easily could get now: broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, and so on. So these are just all delicious vegetables that are easy to find and make. The next one is alpha lipoic acid rich foods. So again, this is a precursor to glutathione, and you can find this in brewer's yeast, broccoli, spinach, Brussels sprouts, peas, and tomatoes. And you see here, both broccoli and Brussels sprouts, they're also cruciferous vegetables. So you're doing two things when you have a Brussels sprouts, or if you have broccoli, you're getting both the cruciferous and the ALA in it. So those are great veggies.
Good question.
Sure.
If you just lightly stir fry these vegetables, would that be okay?
Sure, absolutely. So
Okay.
the precursors you could cook. It's the ones that have more glutathione. Those are the ones that lose the activation of it. So yes, you could lightly cook them. That's fine. Absolutely. Selenium-rich foods. So this too is a precursor, and you find that in Brazil nuts and eggs and mushrooms and whole grains. And then one of my favorite, allium-containing foods. these not only are really powerful antioxidants, they do so much for our body. So garlic, onion, chives, scallions, shallots, leeks, absolutely enjoy them. I mean, if you're going to stir fry something, throw some garlic in there or some onion. It just also, the taste, it's so flavorful. It's delicious. So we're adding all these good foods into our body to stay healthy. And this is just a little bit more on garlic. So garlic has the allium in it, and it's antioxidants. It really helps our immune system. So we're really, at this point, we're concerned about that. We don't want to catch the virus. We want to stay healthy. So consuming these foods, all these foods I'm talking about are going to also improve your immune system. And a couple tips here of how to incorporate garlic. You could add the raw garlic to homemade salad dressings or sauces. And big point here is the raw garlic has the most sulfur in it. So sulfur is the enzyme in allium that has the health benefits. So raw is great. You can certainly cook it because sometimes it's hard to eat raw, but do whatever you can to get that garlic in. And I'm going through this really quickly. So, you had a question?
I said, if you crush the garlic, it's fine. It's tolerable.
Absolutely. Crushing is great. Yeah, and everybody's going to be getting these slides later too. So, I'm going through it somewhat quick because there's a lot of slides. But if anybody has any questions about anything I'm going through, just jump right in, please. Another one is turmeric. So that contains curcumin. So it also is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. The very interesting thing about curcumin, which is that phytochemical in turmeric, phytochemical means phyto is plant and chemical is, in this case, it's good, a healthy chemical, not a negative chemical. But with curcumin or turmeric, to absorb it, you need some fat or black pepper. And specifically, there's something called pepperine, which is found in that black pepper and enhances the absorption of curcumin. So if anybody buys curcumin supplements, make sure that it has pepperine in it, or you take it with a meal with fat.
Good question.
Yeah.
We buy fresh turmeric from time to time to make it as tea.
Mm-hmm.
How do you cook with fresh turmeric though?
Oh, so I just throw it into my food.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you thinly slice it and throw it into foods or what?
Yeah, you grate it.
Oh, grate it. Okay.
Or you can slice it up. It depends on how you're going to what you're making. So if you're making a soup, it could be more cut up. But I usually grate it and put it into my soups or stews or spices.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. And the next one is ginger. So again, ginger is great. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. It's great for our digestion system. If you have any gas pains or bloating, take some ginger. It has digestive enzymes in it. So this all, we talked about the liver, the kidneys. The ginger is great for our digestive system. And again, we have to make sure our entire internal body is working well to detoxify. So ginger is great. Here's a couple ways to add ginger. The first one combines turmeric and ginger to almond milk, and you make what's called golden milk. So that's really tasty. And again, you got your turmeric in there. You can make a ginger lemonade. You could add that to rice. You could make a salad dressing out of it. You could just saute it with vegetables. You could make ginger tea. Does anybody have any suggestions of how to use any of these foods we talked about anything they like to do with ginger, turmeric, or garlic, onions?
Nope, got it.
Got it. Cool, great.
Raina, I have a question regarding the greens. Would you recommend the green juices to, some people say you don't eat them, you can drink them.
It depends on what the ingredients are.
Okay.
If it's just if they're actually adding real vegetables in it, they're fine. Sometimes they'll start adding powders, and powders are highly processed.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like a green powder to make a juice, it's not going to be the same as having a vegetable, because you lose a lot of the nutrients in the processing production.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So leafy greens are super antioxidant, high on that detox list. So you want to make sure you're getting plenty of that. They have iron and calcium, potassium, magnesium, vitamins B, K, C, E. So all these things are really important. Fiber. So we talk about the fiber is really important for detoxifying. So you have that in all these vegetables that we've been mentioning. So what fiber does is it helps that digestive system and makes sure that things are running properly through your body. If your digestive system is not working right, you're going to have problems detoxifying. So again, make sure you're getting plenty of vegetables, plenty of fiber, and having regular bowel movements. So quercetin. Quercetin you find in deeply colored foods, so that means you get a lot in apples. And it's really true, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's very, I know, it's so silly, but it's really true. They're anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic, and antiviral. So really, if you do eat an apple, you're going to be getting in a lot of the nutrients that will help fight illnesses. So, and not only that, there are other foods too. Onions are great. So the onion, you get quercetin and you get the aluminum. So you get the sulfur, buckwheat, nuts, capers, beans. Lots of great, wonderful, delicious foods here that contain quercetin. So one thing you have to be certain of is frying and also boiling foods lower the quercetin levels. So stir frying is okay. You just want to stay away from deep frying foods. And boiling, if you boil something for like a couple seconds, it's okay. But you don't want the food to soak in water for a long time. An option is if you're going to be using that water for something else, like for a soup, that's okay, because then you'll be drinking whatever came out of the food. So think if you're ever going to make boiled vegetables, just reuse that water again, and you'll get some of the nutrients that left the vegetables. And I create a little quercetin salad here. Dark leafy greens, broccoli, onions, beans for protein, top with capers and mixed nuts, and drizzle with some lemon juice and extra virgin olive oil. So that creates a virus-fighting salad. So really tasty. And lastly, we have beets. So beets are really very good for our liver.
Love beets.
They're high, yeah, they're really tasty, really healthy, high in antioxidants and lots of nutrients. Now, one thing to be careful of, if you eat red beets and then you have a bowel movement, if it looks red, it could be due to the beets. I've heard people get really frightened after they had beets and they saw the color of their urine or their bowel movements afterwards. So be mindful of that. Now I put together a shopping list for everybody. So this shopping list is your detox shopping list. And it lists all the foods that were on all those lists before. And, I try to separate them out. The first ones are various fruits and vegetables. The second one are specific alliums. The next one, your cruciferous. Then comes spices, your ginger, turmeric, black pepper, black tea, capers, whole grains. And I specified buckwheat because buckwheat is high in the list of detoxifying chemicals. And brewer's yeast. But brewer's yeast is a problem if someone has Crohn's or has yeast infections. Also, it interacts with some medications. So if you do want to take brewer's yeast, talk to me. You could talk to the medical center. I see Marianne's on here, so you can talk to her about interactions with medications. Also, great nuts are Brazil nuts, almonds, walnuts. So this is going to be your shopping list. The next one is how to create an energizing and detoxifying meal. So what I did here is we have 7 columns. We have a column of whole grains. So every meal, we're going to have like a whole grain in it. And then we'll select a few vegetables in our meal. So maybe we'll have something from the aluminum vegetable column and then something from the cruciferous vegetable column. And then a snack or maybe a fruit to go along with it. And then we'll probably want to spice it up a bit, maybe some ginger or turmeric, and then sprinkle some nuts on top. So this is like a way to create a healthy, detoxifying meal.
How about buckwheat noodles? I have some buckwheat ramen noodles.
Yes, those are delicious. Absolutely. Soba. So soba noodles or buckwheat noodles. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Does anybody have any ideas of how they would create a meal from all these foods?
No.
Anybody else? Yeah, so there's so much you could do with these foods to create healthy meals, either for breakfast, lunch, dinner. So try to incorporate all these foods into your day. And that is going to make you feel so much more energized, and it's going to get your body working properly. Not only does this help your GI system and your liver and your kidneys, but it also helps your heart, and it helps your brain, it helps your blood, it helps every single system in your body. These are all full of antioxidants, which will keep you healthy. Right now, we want to make sure that we stay healthy during this time period. It's a scary time, and we want to be well.
Quick question.
Sure.
The capers. I've only seen capers in a jar. That's how they come, capers in a jar, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, I love capers. So this is your plan. So number 1, we want to eliminate the toxins and products that are going to create toxins in our body. That's number 1. Number 2, stay hydrated. I didn't really talk too much about hydration, but making sure you get enough water to get things moving through your body. So you need, you take your weight, you divide it in half, and that number is the number of ounces of water that you should be consuming a day, or fluids. So for example, if you weigh 150 pounds, you need 75 ounces of fluids a day. Number 3, eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, at least 5, hopefully more, every day, and preferably organic, because there would be less pesticides, or hopefully no pesticides, on those organic vegetables and fruits. Make sure you get plenty of fiber from your food. So you're talking about fiber from your fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, whole grains, and that will keep your bowels, your whole body regular. Make sure you include cruciferous vegetables, dark leafy greens, black or green tea, and these all support the detoxification pathway. That's a wonderful slide I showed at the beginning. And stay active, because being active, moving around, also helps our body. I think we've all become a little bit more sedentary, because even the commuting we did, getting to the office every day, that was steps. We don't have those same steps. So whenever possible, get up, walk around, go outside for a walk. It's beautiful today. I hope everybody had a chance either to go out earlier or maybe going out later for a walk.
Going back.
All right, great, Brenda. Awesome. Yeah, it's a really lovely day. But that is really important for getting things moving through our body. So this is great. It looks like we have some time for questions. What questions? Anybody have any questions, thoughts?
Raina, what breads do you recommend?
Good question. So I like Ezekiel breads.
It's not about breakfast, it's food, not any supplement.
Yeah, so Ezekiel's really good. I also like Dave's Killer Bread.
Okay.
So they're both low in, not too many ingredients. I think Ezekiel has a sprouted wheat bread, which is very good. Make
They
sure
do.
when you're buying your bread that the very first word says whole, W-H-O-L-E. If it just says wheat, then it's processed wheat. It doesn't have the fiber.
Thank you.
What's your opinion on vitamins like vitamin D? Vitamin D3 specifically.
Oh, what about it? What was the question?
What's your opinion on vitamin D3?
Oh, it's important. Some studies have shown that we need to be vitamin D sufficient in order to stay healthy for immune systems. So, I mean, right now we can't get tested for vitamin D, and many of us are staying inside more than normal. So if you're not currently taking a D supplement, it's probably not a bad idea to take one right now. I do not recommend taking more than 1,000 IUs a day unless you've been tested and you know that you're low in D. 1,000 IUs would probably be fine. So if you're going to buy D, make sure you're getting D3.
Cool.
Good question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So we have three to five meals with all these ingredients per day, correct?
That would be great. That's the best way you could do it. If you could put greens, if you get vegetables in every single meal and snacks, you're going to be super healthy.
When should we stop eating? What time of day do you recommend we stop eating?
Good question. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody. Generally, depends upon what time, based on your work schedule. When are you having dinner? You're best off having, eating dinner earlier. Earlier meaning, no later than 7 o'clock, assuming you're going to bed around 10, 11 o'clock.
Cool.
It gives your body time to digest. Also, it helps with our blood sugar control. So the later you eat, the more difficult it is for our body to process the sugars, and you'll end up having higher blood sugar.
Gotcha.
Question: what about a bottled garlic that you get from the store?
Oh, are you talking about the garlic that's pre-grated and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, that's it's probably nutritionally is probably not as good as the type that you freshly grate. Because what happens is anytime something is cut up, I guess the nutrients get released into the air. So, but if that's the best way for you to get your garlic in, have it. Because it's better than not having any garlic.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right now, I know the fresh is the best, but what about the frozen vegetables?
Frozen could sometimes be better than fresh. So let's say you have garlic, and the garlic came from California. So they cut the garlic, and somehow, let's say you took a truck going to New York City. Maybe it takes a week from the time it was cut till it gets on your plate. So during that time period, again, you lose some of those nutrients. Whereas, let's say we have, back in California, they cut that broccoli and they freeze it. It's flash frozen, so all the nutrients are locked into that broccoli. And when you get it on your plate, you have all the nutrients from the original broccoli instead of being shipped over from California and losing nutrients over that process of shipping.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Sure.
I personally love chopped broccoli frozen.
All right. No, frozen vegetables, frozen fruit, they're all fine as long as there's no additives. They're great. Especially now when we're doing more cooking and, you don't want to waste. Many times we'll find we're wasting food, but if you have the food frozen, you just take out the amount of broccoli that you want and you cook that instead of cooking the entire head or wasting a head of broccoli. Any more questions?
I have none.
This is great. Well, anybody else?
I had a question. How is it to make your own smoothies in the morning with like frozen banana, kale, and like all the stuff that you mentioned?
That's fine. Oh, definitely. If you're making your own smoothie, that's great. It's different when you're going to add like flavorings to it. That's not great. But if you're adding your own fresh fruits and vegetables, and as long as you're not getting rid of the fiber using one of those processors that actually remove the fiber, that's not great. But as long as the fiber stays within your blender, that's fine.
Cool.
Real tasty.
And how long should we do this for detoxification?
All the time.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to bring up here is all these foods. This should just be part of your general life. It's more of a lifestyle.
Gotcha.
It's not a one-time detox. It's just will keep your body healthy 100% of the time. Any other questions?
One more question, Raina. I'm sorry. Oat milk, is that okay?
Sure. Nothing wrong with oat milk. It doesn't have much protein in it, maybe 1 or 2 grams of protein.
Okay.
Make sure if you do buy oat milk or almond milk or any of those other milks that it's calcium fortified. Quite often they'll even put vitamin D in it. We usually don't get enough calcium, so that's a great way to get additional calcium, is making sure that whatever milk you're consuming has calcium fortified. Any other questions? These are all great questions.
I had a question. What do you think about intermittent fasting?
There's a lot of good science behind it. So there are a lot of different ways of doing it, and depending upon the person's reason for doing it, it can be very safe. We can also talk about. You can always send me an email. We can talk about it offline. About how what specifically you would like to discuss about that. But no, this intermittent fasting is fine.
Okay, cool. I'll connect with you later.
Okay, great.
One more question I have about flax seeds and chia seeds.
Sure.
Can we incorporate that into the diet as well?
Definitely. No, they're very high in the good fats and great source of fiber and also protein. So definitely sprinkle some on, let's say you have oatmeal, or you put it into a smoothie or on a salad. Lots of ways to incorporate flaxseed and chia seeds.
Cool.
Nice. Any other questions? Anytime you do have questions, my email's here. Feel free to send me an email if you want to meet with me using telehealth. I'm available. Just send me an email. We'll schedule an appointment. I've been doing it by phone, so we'd have a phone conversation. And I want to thank everybody for attending. It's really great to hear everybody's voice, and I look forward to hopefully seeing everybody. I miss you all.
Miss you too.
All right.
Thank you, Raina.
Thank you very much, Raina.
Have a great day. Thank you for coming.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.